You hear me, Carter?
Yep, we're all good.
Yeah, you there?
Yep,
All
I'm here.
right.
We're all good.
What's today's date? October
The
31st, 2018.
31st,
Halloween. Very
Halloween.
first Talking Sports podcast here. I'm Josh Toller. This is Carter Barnes.
So,
We've had this idea for a while now. It seems like every time we talk, it's either about video games or sports, and a podcast would be a little bit easier to put together. So we were like, well, let's just try it. Let's see how it goes. A few things. I know we're on YouTube right now. We're using Google Hangout. So if there's any other way, if anyone joins at any point or watches this before and you think of a better way that we could do this podcast, something that's more accessible for you, just leave a comment. Let us know. Follow us on Instagram at talking.sports, talking.sports with two S's on the end of sports. So follow that account. Make sure you're getting the latest sports news. And so with that, I guess we'll go ahead and start. I think it's pretty obvious what we want to talk about first, Carter. What do you think?
that that shooting performance from Clay, that was pretty
Clay?
impressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't get a chance to watch all of it, but I saw part of it, and whew, wow.
Yeah,
What do you
my
go for
roommate Mason
52?
definitely got to yeah, he got up to 52, which
Wow.
is the career high or the season high for the Warriors.
Mm.
Um,
But that's
it
not
was
what's important, right?
no, it's the record that he set.
Oh, what was
That
that?
was 14 threes in a game.
14 three
So
pointers in
he
the
beat
game.
out his own teammate's record, Stephen Curry.
Well,
Very impressive. That's the greatest shooter of all time that you're competing with Clay. So,
now, what do we think about Clay? I mean, is he a better shooter than Steph
no,
Curry? Is
he's
he
not a better shooter. He's definitely someone that can get hotter than Curry. I think he can get hotter than anyone else in the league. I mean,
now
he's
what
shown
are we
that.
talking about, like catch and shoot? So say you have a guy like Klay Thompson. Do you want to pass the ball to Klay Thompson on a catch and shoot, or do you want that to be Steph Curry coming off a screen, catching that ball and letting it fly? Who do you trust in that situation more?
If I had to choose one,
Yeah.
well, that's the thing about the Warriors. You get to choose whoever's hotter that night.
You get to choose three, right?
You
So
get
it
to
doesn't
choose
really
three.
matter. Yeah.
But
Well, I know there's a lot of rumors circulating around Klay Thompson about, oh, this is the year he's a free agent. What's going to
yeah,
happen?
as
Are the
well as
Warriors
with
going to pay
KD
him?
and the whole cat room and all that. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think on
I
that, Carter?
I really think if they win again, they're gonna stay together. Like there's no question to me that if they win another championship, maybe obviously DeMarcus Cousins is a different story. He could, depending on how he comes back from that injury, that he can go where he pleases because he's on that one year deal. But I think the
Mm.
core four with Draymond, KD, as well as Steph and Clay, they seem to like playing with each other, especially. I think what they built there, KD really fell into it, hit the ground running immediately, and I just think they'll stay together. They like playing with
Yeah.
each other. Why break up?
Yeah, you can tell they kind of play like unselfish. Like even when
Oh yeah,
Clay
no,
was setting the record,
Clay,
Curry was
Clay,
like, break the
yeah,
record.
Clay set the record, and KD and Steph took less than 10 shots that game.
Yep.
Two MVP caliber players took less than 10 shots because the third best person on the team was hot that night.
So you're saying Cousins is gone? You're saying
If
Cousins
if he
Cousins is out of
if
there?
if he it comes back healthy from this injury and is a decent still, like if he, especially if he doesn't experience any real falter from coming off the
Right.
Achilles rupture, that I think he'll want too much money.
That the
But
Warriors can't pay it. Yeah, I
yeah,
get
and the
that.
Warriors
I,
can't
I
pay
think
that because they've got KD and Clay. They've got to re-sign
Clay.
them.
It's going to be one of the two. A lot of people are talking about Clay to the Lakers. Clay would be so good with
Yeah,
LeBron James,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we'll get to the Lakers in a minute. But I would look more towards KD. if we're talking about a move in the offseason, because I think the Warriors want to keep the Splash Brothers there. I understand, Klay Thompson is, like you said, almost considered the third best player on the team, but he's going to be wanting the big bucks. Do they want to pay him all that money? How are they going to manage that with how much they're paying Steph and if they're going to keep Kevin Durant? I think this is Durant's time. Klay Thompson I don't feel has much to prove. He's happy in his role. He's doing great in his role. He's going to stay right where he is, and he's going to possibly win a few more championships with him. But if we're talking about Kevin Durant, he's got something to prove. He acts like he's tuning out all of this. He's a snake talk, the cupcake of he was basically, making it was a wimp move, or it was a cop out move to go to Golden State because he couldn't win with Oklahoma City. So I think he may want to go to a place. A lot of people are saying the Knicks. I don't see that. I see somewhere like maybe Washington, which they've got to change the whole culture if they want Kevin Durant to come anywhere near the Wizards, just because that's where he's from. But to go somewhere that is a good team, a playoff team, but to kind of bolster them into a championship team, I think he wants to maintain that legacy or almost bring it back, revive it, because I think a lot of it's been tainted for how he went to Golden State and when he did it. So I'm kind of with you. I think Klay may stay, but I would look at Kevin Durant to leave the Golden State Warriors this year. So like I said, the Lakers. Everybody was Lakers to the conference finals. Lakers Warriors. Yeah, for sure, for sure. What are you thinking, Stephen A? And what are you thinking, Carter, about the Lakers so far?
I think, especially with LeBron's attitude towards it that we saw, they're not as good as he expected or anyone expected. I'll give them credit, though. They've been in most of the games that they've lost. They've definitely lost every single game that they played this season, besides maybe one or two in the fourth quarter when it comes to crunch time.
Right.
They kind of fall off, they slack. But I mean, I didn't think they were going to go to the conference finals. I mean, I thought they were 8th seed, maybe 7th.
Right. I thought that was a bit much, conference finals. I thought maybe a little higher than 7th or 8th, but yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned the fourth quarter, which is a great point. They're losing a lot of close games, and LeBron's always going to keep you in the game to a certain extent, to where you're not really going to get blown out unless you're playing a team such as the Warriors or a stacked team. But I think, in fact, they're losing the games in the first quarter. This is a team that you look at and you don't see a lot of shooters. LeBron James happens to be one of the best shooters on the Lakers, and he's not revered as a three-point shooter. So what's happening is this team is built to play from ahead, I think, to play aggressive.
Oh, yeah, their numbers,
after it on
their
defense.
Numbers. They're actually the second best scoring team in the league right now.
Yeah, they're putting up points.
They're
but they're
3-point. Yeah. Their 3-point percentage and 3 points taken is sub 25 in both categories.
And that's why, I mean, as much as anyone, I'm a huge Rajon Rondo fan. Love Rondo. But I just never really got that move. It seemed like everyone they picked up in the offseason was either an average to below average 3-point shooter. It was almost they were trying to go against the grain of like, all right, let's try and do the opposite of what everybody else is doing.
Especially when it came to point guard position and not having a true scorer. Yeah. Both Lonzo and Rajon are the passing gurus.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, I understand you want to do something different, and maybe it'll throw some people off. Maybe you'll win some games, but there's a reason everybody else is shooting 3-pointers right now and has players that can shoot them really well. And there's a reason for that. And when you get behind early in games, even if it's close, when it comes down to the last few minutes, if you need a big 3-point shot, you're going to LeBron James, and you know he's not the most clutch player, and he's not, on top of that, even the best 3-point shooter. You could pick guys that are middle of the pack guys, not even all-stars. I'd rather have taken a shot at the end of the game from behind the 3-point line than LeBron James. That's just me. So I think they have to do some major restructuring, and I know this is a year to get used to all the rookies and this and that, and you're going to be satisfied if you make the playoffs. but LeBron's there to win, and he's not getting any younger. And I think this spells trouble for the Lakers if they can't get any 3-point shooters to complement LeBron James. That's when he's at his best, is when he's got 3-point shooters all around him. But teams that are not struggling, Carter, we're going to start with the Bucks, because we also want to talk about the Raptors. Everybody expected them to be good with Kawhi Leonard, but the Bucks,
they're leading the East right now.
Undefeated? Wow. Giannis didn't play against the Raptors the other night. Granted, Kawhi Leonard didn't play either. So it was basically a game where the two stars sat out and they just said, who's got better role players around them? Who's got a better secondary star? And the Bucks got them.
Yeah, they did.
I've heard a lot of people crediting the coaching of Budenholzer over Jason Kidd, and that's how their offense is a lot different this year and how they're operating.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Let's talk more about some struggling teams. One more, and then we're going to go to the football aspect of it. The Thunder. I have some crazy
never been a fan
stats
of Russell Westbrook
to read to you, my friend. They are last in the league in 3-point shooting. They are last in the league in field goal percentage. And they are last in the league in this metric they call, it's basically, what is your percentage when you have a wide open shot? It's basically the statistic. They are dead last in the NBA. This team,
they're behind the Sacramento Kings, taking wide open shots. This team is
almost legendarily awful so far. I'm not sure it'll stay this way. You've got Westbrook and Paul George, and they'll find a way to right the ship.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll
it's a bit surprising. And going along with this, the Rockets. I mean, they were terrible so far. I don't understand if it's just the demoralizing loss last year to the Warriors and how that ended, if it's sticking around. But those are two teams that do not look very good right now. I don't
also, Houston's not getting any better. They're not going to get any better, and they're getting older. Chris Paul's getting older. Carmelo Anthony is rapidly declining at best.
I'm telling you, this is what happens when you sign Carmelo Anthony. He screws your team as soon as you sign him, because he's such a big name player that you have to find a way to use him. But when you force it, it makes your team significantly worse.
And he's not going to let you not force it.
Exactly. Not at all a team player. I know me and my dad would have conversations about the NBA all the time. And one thing I had done in the past was defend Carmelo Anthony, because I felt like a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, he just did not get enough credit. When he was on the Knicks, he was on a terrible team, and he seemed like the only bright spot. And all that changed when he went to the Thunder. I became the biggest Carmelo Anthony hater of all time as soon as I saw what he did to that Thunder team. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I've never been so wrong about something in my life, defending Carmelo Anthony and then seeing what he's done to these, seemingly good teams, these teams that should be playoff teams.
Yeah.
Well, you have anything else to say about that?
I've never been the biggest Russell Westbrook fan, and I also am a James Harden hater.
Yeah, hating everybody. Hating all the good players. I hear you.
But I think this is the Houston Rockets really seem like they wanted to prove themselves this year, and they're not doing that very well at all. Obviously, the Thunder have fallen apart, but I think they'll pick it up easier by their standards, because Houston's supposed to be the number 2 and supposed to be the one that can fight the Warriors and take them to Game 7 like they did last year. And they started off hot last year, very hot, and they're not doing that this year. So I'm interested to see if they turn it around, or when they do, how that'll affect them in the playoffs, because if they'll hit the ground running in the playoffs, and maybe that'll keep James Harden not only healthy, but maybe he seems to die, at the end of the playoffs. He falls off. His 3-point percentage is insane.
Right.
Deep into the playoffs, and especially in last game scenarios, 6-7, his 3-point percentage goes down so much. It's impressive. But I'd like to see how they turn it on and how that will affect them in the playoffs.
Right. Well, on that note, I guess we'll put the NBA aside for now. I know you're pumped up to talk about the NFL.
Football.
What are some takeaways you have this week in the NFL from Week 8? I mean, we're at the midway point. I'm just kind of looking at some games and some scores. Is there anything that surprised you or caught your eye or impressed you from any of the teams?
Well, Green Bay showed that the Rams are very easily beatable. That's for sure. They applied pressure to Goff in the first half of that game pretty much, and they didn't get rolling. Obviously, Gurley's going to get his numbers, but the Rams can be beaten, and honestly could be beaten pretty easily if you know what you're doing against them. Green Bay exposed them. I now think that the best team in the NFC is the Saints.
New Orleans.
Yeah, I think the Saints would beat them.
Yeah, I was impressed by New Orleans' performance on Sunday night. I watched almost all of that game, and there was a point in the second quarter where it looked like the Vikings were gonna just kind of drive down the field, take a pretty commanding lead, and the Saints ended up forcing a turnover. I think it was a Thielen fumbled, and they went down right before the end of the half and scored a touchdown. I believe it was to Kamara, if I'm not wrong. And from that point on, they just kind of took control of that game. It wasn't really close after that point. So, like you're saying, I kind of like the Saints going into the Rams' crib this week and maybe snatching a win, snatching undefeated from them. A couple other things that caught my eye. I was really impressed by the Texans on Thursday night. I think it's very easy to overlook Thursday night games. Seems so long ago, almost a week ago now, today being Wednesday. This Dolphins team wasn't bad coming in. I mean, they weren't world beaters like they looked like the first 3 weeks when they were undefeated. But the Texans are slowly turning into what I thought they would be at the beginning of the season. When I was looking at some of my predictions for the season, I thought the Texans were going to roll through that division, even with Jacksonville being in there. I thought they were a pretty safe bet, and they started 0-3, and I was doubting myself a little bit. Now they've rattled off 5 in a row. Watson looks more healthy. He looks like he's got a connection with his receivers again. Kind of sucks that Fuller went down, but they got somebody to replace that. We'll talk about a little later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But and then one more, if you wanted to comment on, I thought the Panthers were very impressive against the Ravens this week. I mean, this is basically the top defense in football heading into the week, not even really close. And when I watch the Panthers, I get the vibe with Cam Newton. Sometimes they don't care on offense. It's not a big deal for them to score any points, and they just kind of rely on their defense to get stops, and they win close, low-scoring games. They dropped 36 points on the best defense in football and moved to 5-2 and are now 4-0 at home. Who knew Charlotte could be such a home field advantage for the Panthers, being 4-0 and then being 1-2 on the road? They really impressed me this week.
I totally agree.
Any more impressions on Week 8 as we move forward?
I think the London game against Philly and the Jacksonville, I think I can say that Jacksonville's out of it this year.
Yep.
They're out. They're done.
Yeah, I thought that game might be kind of an eliminator game. Whoever loses that goes to 3-5. Going to be kind of tough to bounce back from that. So I'm with you on that one.
Mm-hmm.
How about trade talk after the week? A lot was going down at the trade deadline. What's one trade you want to start with? Pick one. Pick the one that caught your eye.
The one that caught my eye, the Demaryius Thomas to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very eager to see how he is integrated into their offense. He's a very good slot receiver. I think him and Watson will have a good connection. It may take a game or two, especially since he's going up against his old team first week after being traded. They're up against Denver, but we'll see how it goes. That's one that I'm very interested in to see.
Right. Yeah, I was a big fan of that. I was kind of a fan of the Texans heading into the year. I think that's a big, big pickup for them. One trade I was really intrigued by was the Packers just punting on Clinton Dix, just giving up on even trying to re-sign him this offseason, feeling they may not have enough to pay him or that he may not want to re-sign. Aaron Rodgers, kind of like LeBron James, is not getting any younger here. And I'm not understanding why you want to give away probably your second best defensive player for a fourth round pick. Another thing I never understood about trades is why in the NFL picks are so important. I never understood why teams view picks so highly when trading players, because it just seems like you can get your Tom Brady in the 6th round, or you could get your Antonio Brown in the 6th round, or you could get Adam Thielen undrafted. You could sign him to your practice squad. So I never understood why, unless you're getting a top tier pick, a first round pick from a average to below average team, why you would ever trade someone as talented on the defensive end as Clinton Dix. And being a Packers fan, that infuriates me looking at that trade. And Dix had his feelings about the Packers may not want me here. I'm kind of playing like this is my last year, and they proved him right. They proved that they don't respect their defensive backs. They got rid of them, and they said we'll take a 4th round pick. Losers of the trade deadline? Do you have any? Have a team that lost
Obviously,
at the trade deadline?
The Packers, they definitely gave up. I guess they're storing for the future. They gave up. They obviously got rid of Ty Montgomery quick. That was a quick outing for him. They said bye.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Broncos lost that trade, losing Demaryius Thomas and giving him to Houston.
Right. Yeah, I think I guess the Broncos are just trying to stockpile picks. For me, I'm thinking the Eagles lost this whole trade deadline. They got Golden Tate. I understand. Looking at this team, I feel like you have a lot of possession receivers, though, with how many backs you have. You've got a lot of, you got good tight ends. You got an influx of tight ends. You got as many as you can wish for. And you got a guy like Nelson Aguilar. You've got a big man on the outside in Alshon Jeffrey. But I just feel like the wide receiver that the Eagles wanted and needed was Demaryius Thomas, a guy that could play on the inside or the outside, be kind of aggressive, a bigger guy, but can come down with those possession catches when needed. And I understand I'm a big fan of Golden Tate. Had him in fantasy football multiple years. He's done very well for me, I should say. But I just don't think he's the good fit for their team. And it seemed like throughout this trade deadline fiasco, it seemed like the Eagles were just getting outbid by everyone. And they ended up settling for Golden Tate, who's a great player, but it just seemed like they settled when they had more of a need for a receiver like Demaryius Thomas. That's just my take on that.
I definitely see that. Yeah.
Any more trade stuff before we get into some?
I do want to see what they do. I also liked the Rams' acquisition of Fowler.
Oh, that's right. We didn't even talk about that.
I think that's them understanding what their weakness was, and everybody's been talking about their pass rush. They don't apply enough pressure. Hopefully, getting Fowler.
Right. I don't see enough
Sue
off the end. Exactly.
Yeah.
It seems like
comboing with Sue and Arnold and Darnold, and just big bodies. Too many big bodies now.
Exactly.
So I think that the Rams are understanding one of their weaknesses on defense. So good on them for especially putting in. They seem to be a 2019 third round draft pick and a 5th round in 20. I think they're putting it in on this year, and they understand that they're backfield needs a little help. They're banged up, and they need that front to be able to pressure the quarterbacks, and they understand that and acquired Fowler for that reason.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not seeing the production out of Sue that I think a lot of people thought we were going to get. Donald's amazing, obviously, but they definitely need that edge rush they haven't really had since Robert Quinn. Yeah, I'm with you there. What's going on in Cleveland, Carter?
Well,
What's
I
going
love
on?
the statistic of the 6 straight coach fired after losing to the Steelers. That's an interesting one.
You don't beat the Steelers, you're fired. You're
Bye
gone.
bye.
Yeah.
Especially after keeping Jackson for that long.
Right.
That's interesting. I guess they put their chips in this year. They had higher expectations, and it's not falling through for them. Obviously, I think Mayfield can be something special, but I don't see him doing anything just yet. I think Jackson needed to get out of there. I I feel like the Browns are a team that doesn't want to pay a head coach too much, and I can understand that, but at the same time, the best teams have a head coach that's paid a lot of money.
Right.
And I also think that, yeah, you can have the interim head coach from, was it their offensive coordinator? But I don't think you stick with him. I think you need to take somebody from the outside of the organization to help change culture as well. Obviously, someone from a winning organization, you need to help change the culture
Mm.
and get the team right.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff about Lincoln Riley for Oklahoma. He's kind of denied that he wants to go there now. He's, connected with Baker Mayfield, but I agree. They got to completely change the culture. They need I think a younger head coach, one that relates with the players but can still, put the hammer down when needed. Kind of be that stern voice of, "Hey, we got to build some men around here first before we play football." Because we're playing a bunch of grown men, and it just seems like the Browns aren't there yet. My one take on this, make it real quick. If a coach wins 0 games in a season, he should be fired immediately after that season. I never understood why a team would not win a game. You have professional football players on your team. Can you not win one game? Just one? I mean, even if it's by 1 point, if you have a coach that can't get you one win and then not only doesn't win a game one season, but goes 3-36-1 in his time with the Browns, how does he stay around that long? I that blows my mind. And with that, we're gonna go talk about another bum team. Let's go talk about the Buccaneers for a second. They're 3-4. Not a lot going on there except the quarterback, where everything's going on. What do you think about that, Carter?
Well, I think I love Fitzmagic. I really do. I don't see him as a permanent quarterback. I don't see him. He's too inconsistent. I think he is a good quarterback when it comes to that offense. He can They built that offense to overcompensate for Jameis Winston, and then they put the right kind of quarterback in that position with the deep threats like Jackson. Mike Evans can go get the ball on any cornerback, and obviously they acquired OJ Howard. They they built that offense to overcompensate for Winston, and then a quarterback that fits the system was placed in there and succeeded. He he's the there. Tampa Bay remains the only team that has beaten the Saints in the game opening stunner.
Yep.
So I think that they probably win maybe 2 or 3 more games than they would have with Winston in there. I don't think they make the playoffs. I think they should be losing. They need to be losing for the future. Their division with Cam still healthy and young and Drew Brees still there on the Saints and that powerhouse. But Fitzmagic is fun to watch. If you're going to be losing, go out with style. Keep the fans happy.
Exactly. And this Buccaneers defense is terrible. This is not at all Fitzpatrick's fault. He's going out there and putting up, it seems, 30 points a week when he's starting. He literally brought him back against the Bengals, who most people view as an above average team, even if they're just barely that. I'm kind of with you on this one. I think Fitzpatrick should stay, and you really got to evaluate Jameis Winston because he's coming up. He wants to get paid. He wants the money. He's the number 1 overall draft pick.
He doesn't deserve it.
He doesn't deserve it at all. And I think he understands that at this point, and hopefully that'll motivate him to be a better player because they need him to be the franchise quarterback.
They put a lot into him.
Exactly. They can't hope. They can't wait around. They need to evaluate. He's going to end up starting before the season's over again because Fitzpatrick's going to have a few crazy games and then have one bad one, and they're going to bail on him and say, oh, Jameis Winston is the solution. So he's going to have a chance. And we're going to see what he makes of that. If he comes out as careless, and if he does, I think the Buccaneers are really going to have to look at something else. You're going to be looking at probably one of the bottom records in the league, even though you're 3-4 right now, just because your defense is so bad. So you're looking at a good pick where there could be some good rookie quarterbacks coming out. So I'm thinking they're definitely going to have to reevaluate Jameis Winston.
They need, with the offense that they've built, they need a guy that can shoot it downfield accurately.
I agree. They still got Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, like you said, can go up on anybody and get it. OJ Howard, vertical threat. I hear you. Put up a lot of points, fix that defense, and they could compete. They could compete in that division. Talking
Especially
about
once Brees is gone.
I guess, kind of. This is kind of a transition to college football. Did you see the rankings, Carter? They came out yesterday for the first playoff. What do you think about that, man?
Well,
top 4 teams.
I'm not a big fan of LSU over Alabama this week, so I think it'll change a little bit. Notre Dame is strong. They don't have the championship that the other teams do, like Alabama and Clemson. They don't have a Power 5 championship that they're going to, but they need to keep winning to stay there because Michigan, strong bet. If Ohio State, for some reason they vote for them. Some people vote for them just because it's Ohio State.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good. Those are some strong teams. If LSU didn't have to play Alabama, that's a strong team.
Yeah, and I mean, I think kind of like you said, I'm not real big on LSU this week. I know a lot of people think that's going to be a close game. I just don't feel like they can throw the ball well enough. I feel they've got Alabama at 15-point favorites. I'm not sure we're going to see a win by that big of a margin. It's certainly possible, but LSU is just going to try and keep it low scoring, get the lead early, I think, and then just run the ball. And if LSU loses, it's going to be tough for them to even make the playoff at any point just because they'll be a 2-loss team.
They'll be a 2-loss team in the SEC, and they won't be able to make the SEC championship. So
exactly.
They won't even be able to compete in that. So they will. This is a make it or break it game for LSU.
And I don't know about you. I don't get LSU over Notre Dame. That kind of confuses me. I get LSU's schedule is strong.
SEC.
They've played a strong schedule. They beat some good teams, but Notre Dame is the clear number 3 for me. They seem very balanced, a great run game. They've got a good pass game that suffices enough, and with their defense playing real gritty, I think when they play Northwestern this week, that'll be a pretty good game. It's a 9.5 spread on that game. That's the line on that one. I don't know. I think it could be a little closer than that. It'll be a test that a lot of people didn't think would be a test. but it's definitely going to be one for them this week. I think it'll be a quality win if they can beat Northwestern. But as for a couple teams on the outside looking in, whoever wins Michigan Ohio State that game in the regular season, I don't see them not making the playoff. Just because I think they'll win out the rest of the way, and then whoever they play from that other side, whether it's maybe Iowa, or if it's Northwestern, or if it's Wisconsin somehow, or this and that,
They're going to
whoever it
win.
may
That side
be,
is
they're
always
going to win.
the winner. It's every
Yeah.
single year it's the winner.
So I'm banking on one of those two teams probably being the 4 seed, maybe the 3, but probably the 4 making it in. And then another team I could definitely see making it in would be either Oklahoma or West Virginia. Both one-loss teams. West Virginia has a big game at Texas this week. If they can go in, win that game against Texas, they'll move to 7-1. They could ride it out and make it to the what is that, the Pac-10? No.
Big 12.
What is it? Big 12? Pac-10's not even a thing. Big 12 championship game, and then at that point they get on from there. They've got a really good offense. Their defense just plays well enough. Just got to play good enough to get them a win because their offense is so good.
Yeah.
I think that's where we could end up, but I think we're both on the same page here with Alabama, Clemson. I think we've got 1-2 there, and it's very possible we could see them in the championship game again.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Clemson's kind of rolling through the ACC again this year.
Hmm.
The Coastal Division is kind of iffy on all teams. They're losing against each other, beating one, losing again, beating another, losing again. They're the clear favorites of the ACC again. They'll win out. I don't see another team beating them.
The line on the game against Louisville this week, Clemson 40-point favorites. 4-0.
Yeah, that's
so
believable
bet
though,
on Louisville,
sadly.
and Louisville could lose by 38, but they cover,
and
you bank out on that. You make some.
Honestly, that's a very decent spread.
Yeah, it's tough
to
put your money on because Louisville is terrible.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of stay away from that one. You never know how that could turn out with if Clemson's just like, we'll just run the clock out, or we're going to put 60 on them. You never really know.
That's the thing. I think they'll put 20 on them and then put in their third string.
Yeah.
Play around for a little bit, and they won't end up putting up 40 on. So I think Louisville will cover.
So looking in the top 25 games you're intrigued by this week, is there one? Is there two? Are there? I know there's one you're not so big on. I mean, the ranking looks good, Georgia and Kentucky, but what do you think about that game?
I think Georgia will get this. I think Kentucky has made it here just because of the strong offense that they've shown. I think Georgia will get them. Their defense isn't strong enough to stop Georgia. What was the spread on that game?
I've got 9.
Georgia 9.
You think they cover?
I think they. Yeah, I think Georgia beats them. I would say probably by 14, 2 touchdowns at least.
A couple touchdowns. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I think Kentucky's problem is I don't think they have a very good pass game. They've got a great run game. So when they're playing from ahead, they're gangbusters. You don't want to mess with them. But when it comes to playing from behind, which I think they will, this Georgia offense is going to kind of put it on them early. They're going to struggle moving the ball down the field. Georgia knows they can't really throw the ball all that well, and I think they're going to it's kind of snowball for Kentucky in the wrong direction. For me, I had 2. Just kind of excluding Alabama, LSU. Of course, that's a huge game this week.
Biggest game.
West Virginia, Texas. I think there's probably going to be 80 combined points scored in that game.
Yeah, definitely 2 offensive teams clashing.
A shootout, and I think West Virginia is going to show that they're legit. They're going to put it on Texas at some point in this game. Probably win by a couple. I could see them winning by a couple touchdowns. They've got Texas favored by 2 points. I just don't. I don't see it. I understand they're at home, but as for that one, and then Michigan, Penn State at the Big House at Michigan. Michigan 10.5 point favorites. I don't think so. I think that's going to be a very close game, kind of gritty. It says it's going to be 49 degrees.
Yeah,
In
I
that game.
definitely think that the running games will prevail.
Yeah, and I don't see McSorley just kind of letting his team get beat by, 11 points as it may predict on here, or kind of getting routed. I get you're on the road, but I think he's got that kind of dog in him. You see it kind of, he's almost kind of like Baker Mayfield in a certain sort of way, not maybe as arrogant, but kind of just one of those guys you can count on to pull you into a close game, put you into
Oh
a
yeah,
game that you have a chance to win at some point. So I think that game is it's going to
I'd
be
love
one of
to see a
those. If
final
you're a
drive.
real, yeah, if you're a real football fan, you're going to enjoy a game like this because it's going to be solid football, but it may be low scoring. It may be 17-10, or it may be 17-13, or 20-17. I mean, it's not going to be a game that you look at the stat sheets and everybody is just lighting it up. I don't think, but I think it'll be very intriguing to watch. So moving away from college football for a second. Well, actually, let's do one more thing. One more thing in college football. Do you have some spreads? I know we've been talking about it a good point.
We
We
have
picked
been.
3 for this week. We'll just do college football first, and then we'll do the NFL a little later.
Yeah, yeah. You can start your.
Okay, so I know one I had was Boston College is favored by 2 points going into Blacksburg against
Mhm.
Virginia Tech. I am not exactly sure why that is what it is. Going into Lane Stadium and trying to pull out a win. I think Boston College, they see that ranking beside their name. They're feeling a little confident, and I think not West Virginia, Virginia Tech's going to come in and just put it on them from the start. They're going to play that Beamer ball, as they like to call it, offense, defense, special teams, beat them in every way, and I think they kind of get back on track this week into making a better bowl game with a win against Boston College. So I definitely have Virginia Tech covering in the fact that they'll win that game. Let's see. I had Utah State and Hawaii. Now, at the time I made this, I believe Utah State was ranked. They are no longer ranked.
Yeah, they fell to Virginia, number
Right.
25, Virginia.
And so now, so they're 7-1. They're playing 6-4 Hawaii. Cole McDonald has almost 3,000 passing yards and 30 touchdowns for Hawaii. Hawaii 6-4. They're at home. They're a 19-point underdog. This is a game that I could see be very high scoring just because of how Hawaii is as a football team. They like to play offense. I thought 19 was entirely too much. I get Utah State's good. I understand. Don't get me wrong. I'm not disrespecting you, Utah State. For those of you in Utah that are most certainly watching this on a weekly basis, don't get offended. But I just don't see how they cover that on the road against an offense that good. And I think you may see that spread come down a little bit because it would make the most sense to me that people bet against Utah State on that one. I think a lot of people will. And then I had one more. I believe it was West Virginia, Texas. I know I've talked about this game a lot. I just see West Virginia coming out on top, and the fact that Texas is favored in that game is a little to me, considering they just lost to unranked Oklahoma State. So I'm going to go West Virginia in that one, and they start their kind of bid to a college football playoff spot for real this time.
Mhm.
That's it for me. I got my
I
3. What do you think?
my three are the Oklahoma Texas Tech game.
Right.
I think Oklahoma will cover and win by. It's a 13.5. I can see at least 2 touchdowns, 14, 2 possessions at least. then I honestly like this Clemson Louisville. The
Oh,
40
really?
the 40 point.
Yeah.
I really think that Louisville will cover that. I
Yeah.
I don't see them scoring 40 on them just because it's later into the season. Their season is so secure. They're going to the ACC championship. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're already number 2. I can see them pulling their starters early and not putting that up on them.
Yeah.
It's not a game that, especially once they're winning, which they will be, it's not a game that it's not a rivalry. It's nothing special. It's just Louisville. They'll pull their starters early and take them out.
Yeah. I get
And
that.
I think Louisville will cover. Then the Georgia Kentucky, I think Georgia will beat them by 2 possessions at least. And the 9-point spread, I think Georgia will cover that.
Right. So there you go, guys. There's your picks for this week. Go with Georgia, Clemson. What's
No,
your
you
other
go
one,
with
man?
Louisville.
Oklahoma. Oh yeah, that's right.
Louisville to
That's right.
cover.
Louisville. Go with Louisville, Georgia, and Oklahoma, right? And then also the Mountain West. I don't know. Is Hawaii in the Mountain West? I know Utah State. I'm pretty sure Utah State is. I don't know. They might both be. I don't know. But go with Hawaii there in that game. That's a big spread that I don't think Utah State will cover. Like I said, West Virginia, and then oh damn, what was the other one? I already forgot my own spreads, Carter. Virginia
Texas.
Tech.
Yeah,
Tech,
the Virginia.
of course, against Boston College. So I think that's going to wrap up our college football segment for now. If you want to hear more about college football, whatever, you guys tell us. We can do some more in-depth analysis on that. If you like hearing about spreads, if you're a betting man or woman, you guys just let us know what you want to hear. We're kind of here to talk about what people who are watching this want to hear
Encourage your
talked
gambling
about.
problem.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want us to encourage your gambling problem or your gambling addiction, we will most certainly do that. You guys just gotta just let us know what you want to hear. But for now, we're gonna go back to the NFL. Let's look at the
Halfway
playoff
through.
picture. We're
Halfway
halfway
through midway playoffs.
Yeah. So what are we looking at here?
Right now we are looking at obviously the Chiefs and the Patriots and the bye, AFC leading that division, and then the conference, and then the Rams and the Saints leading the NFC. I think those are there to stay. Those are 4 very, very strong teams. Obviously the Rams and the Saints play each other next week, but nobody is close enough to catch up with them. Nobody will be. Those are 2 very, very strong teams. Like I said, I favor the Saints over the Rams, but I think those are there to stay. Then you've got the Bengals and the Steelers with the Chargers and the Texans in the AFC wild card. Then the Seahawks, the Panthers, the Redskins, and the Bears in the NFC wild card.
Right. So just kind of looking at this, the first thing that jumps out to me is the Redskins are the number 3 seed in the NFC.
Yes.
This is
5-2.
probably right now, if we're talking about points per game, yardage, one of the best defenses in football. They just added Clinton Dix.
Their run defense is especially strong.
Yeah, and your yardage as a defense is always going to be down when you can run the ball like they are. Peterson looks great. Alex Smith kind of controlling that game as he normally does.
Game manager.
I'm not buying it. Not for a second. I don't think they can keep this up. Alex Smith has shown us in the past that just when we want to trust him, bam, he's going to make us not trust him. The Eagles, they're 4-4. The Redskins are 5-2. They're going to get a bye here soon. I'm thinking that the Eagles will just kind of slowly but surely throughout the season
Carson Wentz getting back into
creep up on them. They got Golden Tate. They're adding pieces. And then at that point, it's just a question of can the Redskins snag a wild card spot from one of those teams, like maybe.
I don't think so. Not without winning their.
Right now, they've got the Panthers are a wild card, and the Seahawks are the 6th seed in the NFC.
Yes.
I could definitely see. I don't see the Bears staying at number 4. I don't know about you.
I do. I think I
Mm.
really do.
I don't know about that one.
I know it's a crazy. I know it's a gut feeling, but I think the Vikings are better than the Bears without a doubt in my mind. The Packers better team,
Oh, but the Bears
but the
win the
Bears are
division.
gonna stay there. I really
They
I
play the
just
Browns every week, Carter.
I looked at their schedule difficulty and it's not as hard as the Vikings still have to go when it comes to other strong teams. Obviously, the Packers have a very rough schedule going ahead. I think the Bears will stay there.
Oh,
They'll fall in seed. They will fall to the 6th seed.
well, how are
But
they going to do that? If they win the division,
or you know what I mean. They'll be the worst division team.
but that's where they are now at 4
Okay, they'll fall to the 6th.
as a
Maybe
wild
the
card.
as a
So
wild
who
card.
wins the division?
Vikings.
Okay, all right. Um, I see the Bears falling out of that. I think the Vikings are going to end up winning that division when it comes down to it. And Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers got a big game coming up this week. We're going to talk about in a little bit, but I think they're going to snag a wild card spot. I think somehow, some way, the Panthers are going to be the 5. Green Bay is going to be the 6, and on the outside looking in is going to be a team like maybe the Redskins, maybe the Bears, Seahawks. I think those are the teams that are going to kind of be, like I said, on the outside looking in. Maybe even the Falcons if they make a late surge, but their defense is in shambles right now. I know we're talking about the NFC a lot. Is there anything you're surprised by or looking forward to in the AFC? Do you
Well,
think there's a dark horse for a wild
I
card in the
think
AFC?
the dark horse is the Ravens. I know
Uh-huh.
the Panthers put it on them last week, but I think they're a better team than the Bengals.
Right.
I think they'll throughout the season they'll be strong enough and consistent enough where the Bengals will fall out. I think the Chargers are obviously a very good team. They're there to stay. They're in a hard division with the Chiefs, but I think they're definitely there to stay. The Texans have the easiest schedule in the National Football League. Easiest schedule I have
Makes you
ever
say
seen.
that. What makes you
Two teams with winning records. Two. How how does this even happen? The It amazes me. The Redskins weren't even supposed to be that good of a team this year. I
right.
know I'm Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins, tick for tack.
Tick for tack, right? I hear you.
But
I mean,
I,
the
it's just
AFC is just so straightforward to me. I want to root for these other teams. I want to root for the Dolphins. I want the Jags to be good. And then after the Jags, the Dolphins and the Titans, it goes to the Jets, Colts, Broncos.
teams that will not
Ugh.
make the playoffs no matter how much you want them to.
So as much as I want there to be competition, it seems like the only competition is really going to be who wins the AFC South, which is it looks like the Texans right now. They have
Yeah,
the best
they're
trajectory.
gonna win out,
Um,
honestly.
and then who's going to get the last wild card spot? The Chargers are basically the Panthers of the AFC. They're unlucky enough that they're in a division with Kansas City, just like the Panthers are unlucky in that they're in a division with the Saints. So they're
Yeah.
just kind of forced to a wild card there at the bottom at a 5 seed where you're going to end up having to go to it looks like Houston right now if everything holds.
Yeah.
Um but it's just Bengals Ravens. I think that in the last wild card spot is the thing to keep an eye on. They obviously play each other. Um, I don't know. I think that one could go either way, but I think at the end of the day, either one of them has to go to Pittsburgh. If Le'Veon Bell's back, they're still using James Conner. They've got a healthy team. I don't see either one of those teams making it out of Pittsburgh with a win, just in my opinion. And I know we're kind of grazing over the Chiefs and just how consistent the Patriots have been, but that's just what we've come to expect from the Patriots and the Chiefs. We'll see. We'll wait till our playoff podcast and see how they're doing then,
We'll
because
go into
they're gangbusters right now. They're a team you do not want to
course.
face, but when it gets to the playoffs, it's a little different. And I think there's maybe 4 teams in the AFC that could beat them. I mean, I think the Patriots, Steelers, Texans, Chargers could all in the playoffs beat this Chiefs team just because of their history in the playoffs and how they perform. Not saying they will, but just I think that's a very possible.
Yes, definitely more of a sporadic playoff series in the AFC against the NFC, of course.
So let's go ahead and do our spreads for the NFL this week. If we're looking at it, for all you betting men and women out there,
we're going to keep on with your betting problems.
I guess I'll go first. Chicago's a 10-point favorite at Buffalo. Buffalo is hot ass. We understand that. This is not a good team. But 10-point favorites at Buffalo. Buffalo is that type of team that can kind of grit it out and hang around. And I know the Bears are good. I just don't see that game being very high scoring. I see the Bills being able to keep it close, even with Peterman in there. I know this is a stretch, but something tells me the Bills will keep it close enough, even though they'll lose the game to cover. The next one I have, Chiefs Browns. It's a joke that the Chiefs are favored by 8 points against the Browns. They might beat the Browns by 30 points. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll be 3 touchdowns, but 8 points.
Especially with the Browns just firing their head coach.
The Bears are favored more over the Bills than the Chiefs are over the Browns. Like, I get the Browns should have won some games and they've been in close games, but you just fired your head coach. You're adjusting. You got a rookie quarterback. You don't know what you're doing at running back. Are you going to go Chubb or Duke Johnson? And it's just,
I think they'll go Chubb.
The team knows what they're doing. They're completely locked in, and I think they are going to absolutely put it on the Browns this week, and it's just going to demoralize that team even more, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Third game. What was the third game I had? Do you remember what I told you, Carter? Steelers Ravens.
Yeah. I was about to say Baltimore Pittsburgh.
Steelers Ravens. Baltimore favored by 3 for good reason. They beat the Steelers earlier this year in Pittsburgh. I mean, a very good win, but this is not the same Steelers team, in my opinion. They're still just doing the whole James Conner thing this week. No Le'Veon Bell, as you guys probably know. You follow pro football. But this Steelers team, they're going to come out this week, and they're going to look a whole lot different than they did the first time they played the Ravens. I think this will be a win for the Steelers, which with the Ravens being favored to win would be a cover, obviously. So those are my 3 picks for the week. The safest of those 3, like I said, probably the Chiefs. If you're going to put your money on anything,
put it on the Chiefs.
But what do you think, Carter? What are your picks?
My first pick is going to be Minnesota at Detroit. I know it's at Detroit, but Minnesota needs.
It's at Minnesota.
Oh yeah, at Minnesota. Minnesota needs these conference wins to get into the playoffs bad. They need them, and I think they're going to put it on Detroit coming in. Only a 4.5.
4.5.
Definitely think Minnesota will beat them by at least 2 touchdowns, especially without. I really do. I don't believe in Matt Stafford. I don't think he'll be able to put up enough points. I know the Minnesota defense has been shaky.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good enough job against the Saints, who have a insanely high-powered offense. They showed me that they can defend, and Detroit is very easy to read. Their offense they have a strict, straightforward runner with Kerryon Johnson, and they just got rid of Tate, so obviously Marvin Jones and Golladay are going to get some looks, but I think they'll beat them by at least 2 touchdowns.
Wow. All right.
The Miami only to 3 points against the Jets. That I think Miami is going to blow them out, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm picking the teams that I really think are going to score way more.
Mm-hmm.
But
Makes sense.
I really think Miami's going to beat them, cover that easily. They'll beat them by at least 14. And then the Chargers Seattle. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be one of the better games this week,
I'm with
but
you.
I don't see it coming down to only a 1.5. I I think the Chargers, if anything, will beat them by a field goal, maybe two, or just one touchdown. So I definitely bet on the Chargers to cover that.
So you got the Chargers going on the road to Seattle. Weather looks
Yep.
all right now.
Yeah.
No time zone change. Yeah, I get that pick.
And I
It makes,
believe in the Chargers run game either way.
mm.
Eckler and Gordon, although Gordon's questionable, got him on my fantasy team. I'm always kind of worried about that.
Oh yeah.
But,
All right. Fantasy advice, as he mentioned. We play fantasy football. We tend to be pretty good at it. I know that's what you guys are all here for, is the fantasy football advice. Probably people in our league listening right now want to know what's going on in our heads. Do you have any fantasy suggestions for us this week, Carter? Who to start? Who not to start? Go with what you
Start Marvin Jones.
start Marvin Jones.
Start
I mean,
Marvin Jones.
pretty obvious
They're
reason,
going
but
to
why?
be down against Minnesota.
Mhm.
Stafford's got the arm. He's proven that. If anything, I believe in Stafford's arm. His accuracy down the field is good enough that, and the connection there is with Marvin Jones, as showed last week. I think Marvin Jones is going to get at least 2 touchdowns this week, just
Wow.
because of them
Two last
him
week too.
letting it fly. Yeah, I think it'll be 2 and 2 again. But yeah, he's going to let it fly. Marvin Jones is going to be there to catch it, and I think he goes in for a good big game, especially without Tate there anymore.
Right.
I'm
bench 'em?
honestly I'm hesitant with the trades. I don't know what Tate will do in Philadelphia. I think
Mhm.
Demaryius Thomas is a good bet. I think he'll still be very strong there in Houston. So obviously he's got a little bit more to compete with Hopkins. That's a incredible wide receiver that you have to compete with for receptions, and just I look forward to seeing what the trades, especially those 2 wide receivers, Tate and Demaryius Thomas. I look forward to seeing what they do in
Yeah,
fantasy from this point on.
for sure. I think I'm just gonna go with 2. Emmanuel Sanders for me. Obvious reason. Demaryius Thomas
Yeah.
is not there. I think the Broncos could be playing from behind, and I think what a lot of people do when they look at fantasy football, they say, who's going to benefit most from Demaryius Thomas leaving? And they pick the guy who's going to take their place. So they pick Cortland Sutton, who I'm sure his targets are going to jump. He's going to get those red zone targets more with Demaryius Thomas not being there. But people don't look enough at who the next best receiver is, or who maybe the number 1 receiver is. There's no more targets being taken away from Emmanuel Sanders that are being thrown to Demaryius Thomas. Case Keenum made it pretty clear early on that his favorite receiver was Emmanuel Sanders coming into this season, and then it's showed by how often he's thrown that ball to him. So I think Emmanuel Sanders, I know in a lot of leagues he's a just start him anyway if you got him, just because his production's been so good. But look for a big week out of him. So that's not as much advice as it is.
I'll
look
watch
for
out.
a big week. Yeah, watch out if you're playing against Demaryius Thomas. Watch out.
Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, that's the one I meant, not Demaryius. Oh gosh, I had one more. Amari Cooper.
Oh boy.
If he plays, don't you dare anyone start Amari Cooper.
I was honestly surprised. I was like, oh boy, he's gonna mention him. He's gonna mention Cooper. He famously hates Amari Cooper.
I do. He's like my Carmelo Anthony of the NFL. I can't stand Amari Cooper. Incredibly overrated. And then not only is he overrated, but he's going to the Cowboys, who don't throw the ball more than 5 yards downfield. They play the Titans at home. I think Dallas will pull it out just because the Titans are pathetic, but I don't know, man. I just don't understand how you're getting all these receivers on other teams for third and fourth round picks, and then a first round pick for Amari Cooper. I think he's a bust of a player so far. He's going to have to show me something in Dallas that he's
Oh yeah,
some
I
type.
understand he's younger, but Demarius Thomas over Amari Cooper any day.
Oh, for sure.
I don't understand
Uh,
how.
the Cowboys. I mean, it's kind of their thing. Just a mediocre player. You should be good. You're mediocre. That's the motto of the Cowboys there for you. So those are my two pieces of fantasy advice for the week. We're gonna go with what to look forward to. There's one game we're really looking forward to, isn't there, Carter? We're not going to talk about it yet. Let's talk about college football. That one game, Alabama LSU. What do you think is going to go on
Yeah.
there?
Well, I think that the Alabama defense is going to bring a whole new world to the LSU offense, especially passing wise. Like you said, it's going to be a lot worse than people think.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't believe in LSU. Alabama has proven over and over again that their defense can easily shut out LSU.
Right.
Last year it was 6 points, 2 field goals, not even a touchdown.
I mean, that's a defensive performance, and like you said,
Yeah.
I think their offense is just
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not predicting as much of a blowout as you are. I'm kind of on the same page as you though. Alabama is just going to be too much, with LSU being a bit one dimensional. I
And
think
obviously my Heisman pick is going to light it up.
Tua
Tua.
going Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's going to be one of those games you look at and it'll be kind of close on the scoreboard, but you'll be able to, if you're watching the game, be like, yeah, Alabama's got this. You know, they're
Yeah.
dominating the game, top to bottom, first quarter to fourth. Let's move to the NFL. 425 Rams at Saints, Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Big
How you see
game.
that one turning out? That's a big game.
I think, like, even with the acquisition of Fowler, I really do. Green Bay really did prove that you can beat the Rams
Mm-hmm.
and that was Green Bay. So the Saints high powered offense will be able to cut apart. Drew Brees knows how to pick apart defenses. The backcourt of the Rams is compromised, and it's been compromised easily.
Right.
Rodgers showed that, and I think Drew Brees is going to have a big game. Kamara is going to be used excellently. I don't think Ingram has that big of a game. Maybe punches in a touchdown, maybe if it comes down to it. But I think Brees has a big game against him, cuts them apart, and they'll be seen as the best team in the NFC for sure after this week. And then, of course, the 12s.
12, the Battle of the 12s. I just want to add, just before we talk about that big game, big 4 o'clock games this week. Only 3 of them, but they are Texans Broncos, Chargers Seahawks, Rams Saints. Those are 3. I don't normally watch the 4 o'clock games that closely unless it was one, like last week, such as Packers Rams, that I was watching pretty closely, being a Packers fan and knowing it was going to be a good game. Those are 3 games that I think we're all going to really want to keep an eye on. But like you said, Packers Patriots. Battle of the 12s. Who's the GOAT? Who cares? Doesn't really matter this week. All that matters is who wins and who loses.
I favor the Patriots going into Foxborough. Obviously, no weather conditions are going to be effective. The run game for the Patriots obviously scares me, but I believe in the Patriots defense over the Green Bay defense. I think it really does. It comes down to the defensive battle, and because both of these quarterbacks are going to put up points. They are. There's no stopping Tom Brady's offense, and there's no stopping Aaron Rodgers. There's just not. You're not going to do it. And I think the defensive battle I think the Patriots and Belichick will be able to pull it out in Foxborough, especially.
I'm looking at this game, and I've got it pulled up right now. The Packers are 3-0-1 at home. They are 0-3 on the road. Now, granted, they should have had a chance to win last week.
Yeah.
I love the Packers, my favorite team, but I don't see them going to Foxborough and beating the Patriots, who are 4-0 at home. I think McCarthy, who I despise as a head coach, I believe they should fire him and move on because they're wasting Aaron Rodgers with that bum.
That's a big pick for me to go to the Browns.
Oh, I could
think
see that.
I think he'll want too much money though.
Mm-hmm. But
hey, you just got fired. So how much money can you be asking?
Is gonna just be like, Rodgers, win us this game. Let's throw the ball 40 times. For the Packers to be effective, I think they have to be aggressive early. They have to run the ball. They have to do a good dose of play action like they did last week against the Rams. If you watch the first half, they were handing that ball to Aaron Jones and getting 5 yards every play, 5, 6, 7 yards. And then you got that play action, Devontae Adams, Jimmy Graham. You got deep threats. You got maybe Allison coming back. We'll see if he plays this week or not. But the Packers have to play this game smart because you know the Patriots are. You know they always will. Who's going to have the most turnovers? Who's going to have the most penalties? Who's going to make the biggest mistake at a crucial time? And it showed that the Packers are willing to do that and can do that every week with Ty Montgomery last week. The Packers can't rely on Aaron Rodgers to fix all their problems. Everybody's got to step up and say, we're on prime time. This is a big game. We got to come out and win this one because if we don't, we're 3-4-1.
With Minnesota and the Bears.
Yeah, in the same division. And it looks like, Minnesota's got a win this week. The Bears play the Bills. So that's just another game you're dropping in your division. This is a huge game, not only for Aaron Rodgers as it comes to, playing against Tom Brady, the guy who's considered the greatest quarterback of all time. But for this team, they need this win. They have to have this win, I think, at this point in the season. And if they don't get it, they're looking like they're going to be in some trouble come.
Definitely pressure time.
The playoffs, yeah.
We'll see how. Obviously, I think Rodgers can take the pressure, but the rest of the Green Bay handling pressure has never really been their strong suit.
But I can almost guarantee anyone who watches this podcast next week that will be the first thing we talk about, unless there is any massive news in the sports world to go in front of it. That's going to be a game that I know a lot of people are watching, and I know we certainly will be. As we're coming down to the last couple of minutes here, any bold predictions this week, Carter? It's the last thing I got on the agenda for today. Do you have any bold predictions? NFL, NBA, if you have some bold NBA prediction, or NCAA?
I think that it may not be that bold of a prediction, but I really do think that the Chargers put it on Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I picked them in my spread because they're thinking it's going to be a close game, and I know it's at Seattle, but the Chargers offense is nothing to be shy of the Chiefs. It's not. I think they're even more well put together for Phillip Rivers. He's got both running backs, dual threat running backs that can do around the same thing. Eckler is an amazing receiving back. Obviously, Gordon is one of the best at everything. That's what makes him so good. I think they can and they will put it on Seattle at Seattle, and they'll really show that if Kansas City wasn't in their division, or they'll even show that, hey, Kansas City, watch out for next time because we can take this division. Because I believe in the Chargers defense much more so than the Kansas City's defense.
Right.
So I look forward to that.
Well, kind of
I
to
don't know
end
if
this.
it's that bold, but
No, I'm kind of a big Seahawks fan right now. I'm liking what they're doing, offense and defense. We thought it was going to be a down year for them. They may be the worst team in that division, and they're definitely not showing that. They're obviously playing second fiddle to the Rams, but they're a team that could definitely creep up and grab a wild card spot if other teams aren't careful. Teams being, the Packers, etc. Um,
yeah,
my bold prediction is that the Buccaneers at Panthers game will be the most interesting football game to watch this weekend. We're talking
it's
about
magic.
NFL football. I think there might be 80 points scored combined in this game. This is
Wow.
a game where we could see Fitzpatrick just go out and sling the ball around. The Panthers could get up on them early. I think the Panthers are going to end up winning it at the end of the day. Don't quote me on the 80 points, but this is going to be a shootout. This is going to be a game that is going to be really fun to watch. And if you're watching Red Zone Channel and it's getting down to the last few minutes, this is going to be a game you want to tune into. And then maybe another one, not as bold. I'm not sure the Texans score 20 points this week against the Broncos, and if they
It's
do,
at,
it's barely.
it's
It's
in
it's in
Mile High.
Denver. I think people forget that this offensive line for the Texans is still trash. They've done better the past few weeks, but a different type of environment going up into the altitude. I'm not even sure Watson's played in Denver yet. I don't think they played him last year.
No,
So,
it's his first
or well,
time in the.
I don't know. Don't quote me on any of that, but I think he's going to have a tough day. I think everyone's really high on Deshaun Watson right now, just because he had a huge week last week, and understandably so. And they got Demaryius Thomas. They're looking pretty good for the playoffs. They're going to kind of roll through the Broncos. I could see the Broncos winning this game. So that's just one thing I'm looking for. And finally, this is a bold, bold prediction. Please don't quote me on this unless I'm right, of course. Temple is going to go to UCF, I'm sorry, to UCF and win.
Wow.
Undefeated UCF.
What is it? A
20 game
19 or
win
20
streak.
game? 20. Yeah,
20
yeah.
game win streak. It's going to be at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. They're going to go there and they're going to win that game, and it's going to kill UCF's playoff hopes. It's going to kill the win streak, and that's going to be it for their UCF this year. Basically, they're going to get a good
Yeah,
bowl. They'll probably only
they
lose one game, but
yeah.
I'm going to go with Temple. I think they're.
I'll give you $5 if Temple wins.
I think Temple's going to beat UCF, and that might be another game to put your money on if you got $100 laying around. I guess, but if there's anything you want to add here at the end, CB,
No,
really
that's a good
anything.
one to end it on. That is a bold prediction. That is a great thing to end it on.
Yeah. I just want to say one more thing. Throughout this podcast, I got a notification on my phone saying Giants Hall of Fame, baseball player Willie McCovey, 20th all time in home runs. He died at the age of 80 during this podcast. Sadly, hate to end it on that note, but prayers up to his family, and certainly a great baseball career and life lived. But on that note, we'll see these guys next week, right, Carter?
Yeah,
Next
yeah.
Wednesday?
Wednesday nights every night
Yeah,
on
we
Wednesday.
got Packers
And
Patriots. Rams
yeah,
Saints, a lot to talk
games
about.
to talk about next
Alabama
week, for
LSU,
sure.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we'll try and keep it. I'd say 8 o'clock is a good time to start it for me.
Sure.
So we'll try and keep it consistent for right now, and obviously feedback on what you think we can improve upon.
I was going to say the same thing. Quick reminder, follow the Instagram, talking.sports, 2 S's on the end. Kind of like Carter said, tell us Apple Podcasts or any other podcasts app or way to podcast would be better for you guys to watch. If you're interested in watching the podcast, certainly tell us either in the comment section, send us a DM on Instagram. The page pretty small right now. Get your suggestions in if you really like a sports podcast just coming from these two, just college guys that are like you, or you guys and girls watching out there. Just let us know. We'll adjust. We'll give you what you want. we'll make you spend all your money on college football. But that's it for me. If that's it for you, Carter.
Yeah, I really like this. Was definitely fun. I definitely think that we're gonna keep on doing it, and I I hope that we can bring the whole more of a reasonable and outsider. I'm not a Stephen A. who gets to talk to NBA players and NFL players every day.
Right.
They're not hitting me up on my phone. I'm just a normal person like you guys, and this is my take on things. And I hope
Exactly.
that that is a good way for us to grow and expand, is that real person, real average Joe, and that knows sports obviously, but is not engaged in the sport level. I don't get to talk to NBA players and NFL players as much as I'd like to, but I'm a
Exactly.
normal person.
At some point in this podcast, we plan on bringing people on here. It's not just going to be these two average Joes. It might start with a couple friends and progress to some athletes we know, or maybe even at our school, and hopefully, with you guys' help and support, building us up with that, we could get some people on here you really care to hear about. And we could even ask them some questions that you guys may have. The more you guys support us, I think the greater you'll appreciate this podcast. And like we said, just follow us, subscribe, comment, do whatever you got to do to get up with
Yeah,
us.
we'd love to be able to talk about what you want to hear.
Exactly.
So comment, tell us what you want to hear.
Well, on that note, I'll see you, Carter. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Good night.
Next Wednesday, 8 p.m.
Talking sports.
Talking sports. Tune in.